Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into the recent 51st G7 summit. It was this big global meeting meant to show solidarity, but, well, as we'll see, it actually revealed some pretty surprising cracks.
That's right. We're focusing on the summit in Kananaskis, Canada, June 15th to 17th, 2025. And what's really fascinating, maybe a bit unsettling, isn't just what did happen.
It's what didn't happen.
Exactly. We're going to explore the deep divisions, some unexpected moments, and, what it all really signals for global unity.
Yeah. Our mission today is to cut through the noise, give you the essential insights. How did this meeting, designed to project strength, end up highlighting these, well, significant geopolitical fractures?
Okay, so let's just dive right in. Usually you expect the big statement from a G7 summit, right? The communiqué, that's their unified voice.
Mm-hmm.
But, for the first time anyone can really remember, there wasn't a full joint one. That sends a message, surely. Maybe one of weakness. Oh, it absolutely does. And the reason why is, well, it's fascinating and honestly deeply concerning. U.S. President Trump specifically blocked a strong, unified statement on the Ukraine war.
Wow.
Yeah. So instead, you had individual leaders putting out their own, separate statements. Things on AI, critical minerals, quantum tech.
Softer topics almost.
Right. This isn't just like a procedural thing. It's absence. It speaks volumes about them not finding common ground on maybe the most pressing global issue right now. It signals a deeper trust deficit than we've seen in a long time. You have to ask, if they can't agree on Ukraine, what can they really agree on?
Right. So given that division, especially over Ukraine, what was it like for President Zelenskyy?
Mm-hmm.
He was there, but this key ally, the U.S., was holding back. And I heard his meeting with Trump didn't even happen.
You've hit on a really crucial point there. Zelenskyy was there, yes, but that symbolic meeting with Trump, it didn't materialize. Trump left early. Which definitely underscored the divisions. But, amidst that disagreement, Canada really stepped up. Big time.
How so?
They committed $4.3 billion in aid. That's $2 billion specifically for munitions and another $2.3 billion in loans. Plus, Canada announced new sanctions targeting Russia's, its shatter fleet.
Those older ships avoiding sanctions.
Exactly. And they went after Russia's energy revenues, too. It really highlights a very distinct, quite forceful Canadian leadership on Ukraine, especially when you contrast it with the wider G7 picture.
That is a huge commitment from Canada. But, okay, speaking of President Trump leaving early, that's really interesting. He just left abruptly on the evening of June 16th. Why?
He left to handle the escalating Israel-Iran conflict back home. It was apparently quite urgent.
Okay, that makes sense for urgency.
But here's what's quite revealing, even with the division we've been talking about. The remaining G7 leaders, after he left, they did manage to release a joint statement on that specific crisis.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they supported Israel's right to defend itself, called on Iran to de-escalate. So it raises this question about, selective unity. They couldn't unite on Ukraine with everyone there, but they found common ground on the Middle East once a key player had, left the room.
It's easy to focus just on the discord, isn't it? But diplomacy, it's rarely just one thing. Even with these fractures, some other things must have happened, some individual initiatives. It couldn't have been all disagreement.
Absolutely not. You're right. While the main G7 statement faltered, other leaders were definitely busy. They were pursuing their own agendas, forging new ties.
Like what?
Well, for instance, India's PM Modi was quite vocal. He emphasized ending conflicts, building consensus on terrorism, and he specifically mentioned concerns about Pakistan. And Australia's PM Albanese, he was involved in talks on AI, renewable energy, and even firmed up a new defense and security partnership with the EU.
So bilateral things, side deals.
Exactly. And on trade, there was actually a preliminary U.S.-UK trade deal announced. It cuts car tariffs pretty significantly from 25% down to 10%.
That's big for the auto sector.
It is, though talks on steel tariffs, those are still pending. But these individual actions, they show that even when that core G7 unity looks shaky, international engagement keeps going in lots of different ways.
So Canada had the presidency for 2025. The next one's in France in 2026.
Yeah.
So to sort of wrap this up, what's the final thought, the ultimate takeaway for you, our listener, from this 51st G7?
Well, connecting it to the bigger picture, this summit really reflected these deep geopolitical fractures, maybe even deepened some of them. The split between the U.S. and allies on Ukraine strategy was just so evident. And then you had that contrast, that selective unity on the Middle East policy. So while Canada definitely definitely took a clear lead on Ukraine funding and, some other things like tech and resource security move forward. President Trump's early departure and the lack of that collective statement really casts a long shadow. It certainly raises doubts, serious doubts, about the G7's traditional cohesion and maybe even its future relevance as this unified global force.
So it leaves us, and you, with this big question. In a world that seems increasingly fractured, how effective can a group like the G7 actually be when its core members are struggling so visibly to agree on really fundamental issues? It makes you wonder about the future of global cooperation itself. What stands out most to you from this deep dive?